Cedar Point is widely considered to be one of the best amusement parks in the world. Their title, Roller Coaster Capital of the World, definitely shows with their lineup of 18 different roller coasters. From kiddie coasters to world-class thrill rides, Cedar Point has it all. I had the opportunity to visit Cedar Point this summer, and the lineup blew me away. I rode 11 of the 18 coasters, including all of the thrill rides except Dragster. In this video, I will be ranking my top 10 favorite coasters at Cedar Point. Before we get into the main list, I'm going to give two honorable mentions. Top Thrill Dragster was closed due to its conversion into Top Thrill 2, but I know that if I had gotten to ride either version of this ride, it would rank very high. The other honorable mention goes to Corkscrew. There's really not much to say about this one other than it's not that good. It's one of the oldest rides in the park, and its age really shows with how it rides. In addition, Corkscrew has some of the worst trains I've ever been in. They sit really low, and there's not a good place for your legs. I didn't hate it as much as some of the other roller coasters I've ridden. Viper. But it was still not fantastic, which is why it's the one operating coaster that I rode to miss this list. Starting off the top 10 countdown is Gemini. This ride is definitely fun, and it had its place in the park, but it just doesn't measure up to the other rides at the park. The airtime is solid, but I really didn't like the transitions at the bottom of each valley, and it really threw me around. This ride is good at most, and I would consider it more of a family coaster than a thrill coaster. Coming in at the number 9 spot is a ride that surprised me. Blue Streak is actually a really great ride. The first drop was nothing special, but all of the smaller speed hills had fantastic airtime. The bigger hills didn't do a lot, but the small hills made up for it. Some people think this ride is rough, but I just thought that it was the fact that it's an old wooden coaster. Similar to American Eagle, Blue Streak has some bumpy patches, but it didn't really bother me. The 8th best coaster at Cedar Point is Rougarou. I actually think that this is a really underrated ride. It's smooth, it has good inversions, and a unique layout. I never really got the appeal of floorless trains on looping coasters, but it's still really fun. I do recognize that it's a revamp of Mantis, the old stand-up, and I do think almost any kind of trains are better than stand-up trains. I really do like how this coaster has most of its layout over the water, and it makes for some really nice visuals both on and off ride. I also like how unique the layout is, especially in the second half, and I think it gets overlooked too much. However, this ride just doesn't measure up to the upcoming thrills on the list. I know I'm going to get some hate over this next choice because number 7 spot goes to Magnum XL200. I'm going to get the obvious out of the way, and yes, I do love that airtime finale. I would even argue that the finale is too aggressive, especially for the average person. However, I don't think that the finale makes up for the whole ride. The first 2/3 of the ride is honestly a little boring, apart from the classic era roughness and nice views of Lake Erie and the water park. I just didn't think that Magnum was worth a spot higher than this. Coming in at the number 6 spot is a ride that some people praise and others think is decent at best. Raptor, the B&M invert, has a lot of the things that I like about the model. It has intensity, great pacing, forces, and is smooth. In fact, Raptor is my second favorite inverted coaster. I love how long the ride is, stretching and twisting down the midway. Each element has great power, and there isn't a dead moment on this ride apart from the mid-course. As we reach the halfway point, I wanted to remind you that I have a Discord server and an Instagram. Both are really good ways to connect with me as the channel grows. So go check them out, links will be in the description. Marking the halfway point is the B&M dive coaster Valraven. A lot of coaster enthusiasts don't give this ride any respect because it's a crowd pleaser, and I can understand that. With Valraven, I try to appreciate it for what it's meant to be, rather than comparing it to a ride on the other side of the park that is built to do something totally different. Valraven might not be the most intense coaster in the park, but I think it has great elements. The first drop in the front row is always fun, and there's some decent positive Gs. I really like the inversions on this coaster, and the slow motion 0G roll is by far the best part of the ride. Valraven is a solid coaster and almost underrated coaster at the park. The last B&M coaster on the list is up next, which is Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper is similar to Valraven, with it being a crowd pleaser. The main reason that I have Gatekeeper as the highest B&M on the list is for its variety of elements. The first drop is fantastic, and you get some pretty strong forces at the bottom before the second inversion. The rest of the inversions are really cool, especially threading through and around the keyholes over the front entrance. The ride is perfectly smooth, and I don't have anything bad to say about Gatekeeper. The top 3 rides at Cedar Point are no surprise to anyone, with the exception of Top Thrill. These rides are almost guaranteed to be toward the top of anyone's list, and any of these 3 would be the star attraction in almost any other park. Kicking off the top 3 is going to be Millennium Force. This coaster completely blew me away when I rode it for the first time. If you ever go to Cedar Point, the front row Millennium Force is 100% worth it. The drop on Millennium Force is my all-time favorite drop, and it gives fantastic airtime in any seat. Millennium Force keeps up the pace throughout the whole ride, never slowing down. Because of this, the airtime hills all deliver good airtime and the turns are forceful. When I first rode Millennium Force, I was seriously considering it as my favorite all-time coaster. That was until I rode the coaster in second place, Maverick. If Millennium Force blew me away, then Maverick launched me into space. There was no doubt in my mind that this was quite possibly a perfect coaster. Maverick really does have everything. The Beyond Vertical drop launches you out of your seat so violently that it makes Twisted Colossus look weak. The banked turns and quick transitions between them offer amazing forces and laterals. There's more airtime with the hills at both the beginning and the end of this ride. The inversions are amazing. The launch is my second favorite all-time launch. The Stangle Dives took me by surprise, especially the second one, and to this day that is the most whippy element I've ever been on. Maverick really is the full package. However, there's one more ride that I prefer just a little bit more. Taking the gold medal as the best roller coaster at Cedar Point is Steel Vengeance. While it might not have the launch or the positive forces that Maverick has, it has my favorite force of all, airtime. Most of my top 10 is made up of airtime-filled rides such as Goliath, Raging Bull, and Twisted Colossus. The long lines that this ride gets are definitely justified. The first drop is amazing, but the other elements that it has are so well done that the drop is just another airtime moment. The massive top hat and the Outer Bank Hill right after the drop are better than the drop itself. The inversions placed throughout the experience are amazing because they not only provide a break from the non-stop ejector airtime, but it also provides some awesome near-miss and surprise elements. The second half is arguably better than the first because you get lost in between the wood supports as it winds through the structure. Steel Vengeance earns the gold medal, and it's well deserved, especially considering that Cedar Point and RMC built it to be the best in the world. So that's going to do it for the top 10 coasters at the roller coaster capital of the world. If you have any suggestions or opinions to share, I encourage you to leave a comment down below. As I mentioned before, the Discord and Instagram are linked in the description below, as well as on the channel page. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. KingT out.